So I finally got through Young Justice Season 3 Outsiders. Now the problem is, let's see if I can keep all of this straight. Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to an all-new Crossin Streams. As always, I'm your host, the real Geno Reynolds, and today we're going to be taking a look at the DC Universe's revival of Young Justice with Young Justice Outsiders, which is Season 3. This show takes place about 2 years after the end of Season 2, after the fall of the Reach. And what you have here is a lot of different changes that they make. And it's going to be hard for me to keep all of it straight. I'm sure I'm going to miss stuff. I'm not going to talk about every character or every story arc or any of that stuff because there is so much going on. But I'll talk about what I can. What you have is you have the Justice League, and you also have the team, which is the covert team that was created in the first season, but it's got different members now. But then also some members have retired and tried to move on with their lives to do different things. But the way it turns out is with the events that are going on with there being meta-human trafficking, a lot of teens are being kidnapped and turned into meta-humans, especially a high-profile one, which is the princess of another country. And that definitely comes into play later. Dick Grayson ends up bringing a few of the retired people in. And in the end, they end up kind of forming yet another team, which is the Outsiders, which is another covert team. But here's the thing. This is probably my biggest problem with this season. And don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed this season. I liked whenever the story crescendoed. I mean, it's 20-some episodes, and it finally crescendoed. Everything worked for me, so don't get me wrong. It's a good season. It's worth checking out. But there were so many characters and so many different teams on both sides, good and bad, that it was hard to keep it all straight. And there's characters that you would like to see them focus on, which I understand that they're not focusing on, Batman, Superman. That's not my problem. I understand that those characters are taking kind of a lighter, schedule because it's not about them. They're just kind of supporting players to the younger characters. It's just that there are so many younger characters and they keep introducing more and more and more. I mean, yeah, we got the ones we have already been established with, and I kind of wish the show would have focused more on them, but then they add in so many different people. They add in Geoforce and Cyborg and Terra, and there's just so many of them. Again, we get pretty much everyone we had in the first two seasons that made it out of those seasons, and then they're introducing a ton more. So having all those characters, it's hard to know who you want them to follow. And the ones that they follow, while I like the characters, I would rather see more of the established characters that I enjoy. And that's just me nitpicking. I would have rather have seen, Connor, and even though they introduced Tim Drake's Robin, and they introduce a few others that I know, I would have rather seen those characters get followed, and they are in the show, but they're following this Outsiders team more, which you do get characters you like Beast Boy and Wonder Girl on that team, Blue Beetle's on the team. So you do get characters that you know and have already been established a little bit, but you also get the main three characters they focus on the group. I was fine with their stories, but I don't know. I think I would have rather, since the show is coming back from cancellation, I kind of wish the show would have focused on the more established characters. That being said, a lot of characters get some time to shine, and some characters do get some payoffs from the first two seasons. Like Connor Kent fulfills a promise he made from season 1. And just things like that. There's different promises that are made. Changes have happened over the 2 years. Batgirl is Oracle now. They don't They don't exactly say how it happened, but she's in the wheelchair now. There's just little changes like that. So there is just a lot going on with a lot of different characters. And again, having all these different teams, it just gets a little confusing because, again, you got the covert team, you got the outsiders, and you have to forgive me. I have to look at a list here because I can't keep it all straight. Then you have the Justice League, which gets split in two because Batman takes a group and leaves with them. You have the Light still. Then, of course, we deal with some new gods, and Apokolips is coming. And there's just we're introduced to the Suicide Squad. There is technically the Doom Patrol is in the show. I will not spoil how that happened. I'll just say there's an episode with Beast Boy. It's Beast Boy Central episode that, even though I know a lot of people won't like the style that they chose, it's still really funny. It fits the character of Beast Boy and when they introduced the Doom Patrol, how they introduced the Doom Patrol. But then also you have the Meta-Human Youth Center, and you have the characters leading that place, and there's just a lot going on. And so it's kind of a problem. I mean, it's just so much is happening, and so there's so many different characters, and they're trying to do so many different storylines. I'm glad they're definitely getting a season 4 because, boy, there's still a lot of things that need some payoff. And I kind of hope that they cool it down with some of these newer characters because, again, I'm cool with them establishing new characters, but not at the detriment of characters that we were wanting to see more of because they were coming back for a season 3. I will say this, though. I do like what they did with Cyborg in this. And yeah, the story is similar to the stories you've heard before for Cyborg, but I don't know. I really dug how they handled Cyborg in this season. He definitely got a big push. But I would have loved to have seen more of like the original characters like Nightwing and Connor Kent, even though they did get their times to shine. But then again, everyone kind of had to share the spotlight in this show. One thing you'll definitely notice about this show, even though I think it is rated PG, this show is a lot more adult than the first 2 seasons. With that being on the DC Universe streaming service, they can do that. It's a lot more bloodier. People die. They insinuate sex a lot. There's just so much more adult content. I mean, I'm not saying they show like animated nudity or anything like that, but at one time they do cuss. It's in Atlantean if I can remember it right, but they do cuss. It's not like the F Batman, but just one of the characters drops line. They deal with a lot of subjects such as family and just all sorts of different types of things that you would see in the real world. They have a same-sex relationship that you kind of think they're going one way and then they go another. Because you kind of think they're setting up a love interest for a character, and then it's like, oh no, he already has a love interest. So they just do many different things that on this platform they can explore, and I thought that was a good thing because it doesn't feel forced, and that's one thing I don't mind at all if they add in anything, as long as it doesn't feel forced. I don't like being preached to about things, but if they add things in and they feel natural, no matter what it is. That's what I enjoy is when you can just introduce characters or you can introduce themes and it doesn't feel like they're cramming it down your throat. The way they handle this, especially the same-sex relationship, it's just there and you're just like, it works and it's cool. So I'm cool with that. I like that they introduced a lot of new things. But yeah, the show is very much more adult than the first season. So let me just say this. If you enjoyed the first 2 seasons, if you're watching it with your kiddos, just be a little careful with this one because I think in the first couple episodes people bleed, and I mean it's blood all over. People are getting murdered in this show, and people are, there's one character who, well, they can come back to life. So when you see him die after the first time, you're just like, oh, okay, well, they're coming back. But this one character dies like 5 times, and it's bloody every time. And so again, it's a little more adult themed. There's really not much more to say. I enjoyed the stories that were happening. I just felt like they were trying to fit too much, and the universe is already too big, and I feel like they should have toned it down character-wise, because I understand you want to have the Justice League, and you want to have the Justice League's covert group that was established in the first 2 seasons, but then you're introducing another group, and then another group later in the season. Beast Boy gets his own group. So there's just a lot going on. I will say there's one thing that I really dug, and it started at the beginning of the season. There's one character arc that you know they're going to do something with this character because they're using him a lot. But what they end up doing with him, it's perfect, because one of the themes that we followed in this show throughout the first 2 seasons was trust. Who do you trust? Can you trust these people you're trying to protect by not telling them things? You know, everyone was always keeping secrets. And in this season, there's one character that's really I don't know if you want to call it the linchpin. He's the one character that's he's trying to keep everybody in line. He's trying to keep everybody being the heroes they're supposed to be, not keeping secrets and not doing this and not doing that. He's the moral compass, I guess is the good way to put it. And where he ends up at the end of the season, I really dug. I thought it was a smart move, because they really took their time with this build up. So I really thought that was cool. All in all, this is a really good season. It's a nice welcome back. It's definitely a different feeling welcome back than the first 2 seasons. I do like that they went a little more mature with it, because I imagine a lot of people that are watching this are going to be older. I mean, I know my son would like the first 2 seasons of Young Justice. I probably wouldn't let him watch this one though, because it's awful violent. While I don't mind some of the themes, I don't mind if he learns some of the themes, because I mean, I want him to learn about the world and things that people go through and everything. But when it comes to the violence, I would definitely watch it for that. Again, the language isn't bad or anything. They don't show sex. They only insinuate it. So, I mean, you're not going to have to explain much, to your kids about that. And again, I think like 1 or 2 cuss words. I know Lobo throws out a few, but it's like Lobo cuss words, where it's a different language. But there is one curse word in it. And again, it's in Atlantean, and you have to read a subtitle. But when it comes to the violence, that's the only real big warning I would offer to parents, if they want to if their kids enjoyed the first 2 seasons. But really, all in all, it's a good season. If you have the DC Universe, streaming service, it's definitely worth checking out. Would it sell the streaming service for me? If you really like the first 2 seasons, I would say it would. I haven't got to watch a lot of the other stuff on there. I'm going to be getting to hopefully Titans and a few other things to really see if the streaming service is worth it. But for me, as a fan of Young Justice, being able to watch this new season on the streaming service, it was definitely worth it for me. I got a discount on the full year. I think I saved like $20 over the whole year, which I love paying for a whole year on these streaming services. So for me, it was worth the price of admission. If you didn't really like the first 2 seasons, this one, I don't think it'll change your mind. But if you thought the first 2 seasons were a little toned down when it came to things that the stories they could tell, like having deaths and violence and everything, then this one might change your mind a little bit. But then again, you have to be kind of invested in the first 2 seasons to kind of know what's even going on in this one. That's going to be all for this edition of Crossin Streams. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the Real Geno YouTube channel, like this video, and if you have anything to say about Young Justice Outsiders Season 3, please feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Till next time, I'm your host, the Real Geno, Geno Reynolds. See you later.